It's the Late Night Impact Show with Rob Wolcott, live from the Social Innovation Summit in Chicago. It's your innovative show host with the most, Rob Wolcott.
Thank you. Hey, thanks so much for that applause. Zeev, am I supposed to read into the fact that there's 0 time on the clock? I mean, is that an indication of your trust in me? You know, the thing is, if you come to Social Innovation Summit, you get to know Zeev. This is not just Zeev, his whole family. This is a family affair, and you're all part of the family. You think you can't choose your family? You can here. It's great. And I choose, and fortunately, they chose me. But one of the things you know, being part of the Social Innovation Summit, if you're ever asked to speak, you know that Zeev is creative. And that's one of the things we all love about him and his program. But that also means that you're going to be a victim. So we are all here victims of his flights of fancy. So he contacted me a couple months ago and said, Rob, in great promoter voice, he said, Rob, I've got a fantastic idea for you. He said, I said, wow, what is it? Oh, there's never been a better time than now, Rob. We're going to do this thing, the Late Night Impact Show with Rob Wolcott. I said, okay, I'm a little dubious, but what is this? Well, it's going to be like, Johnny Carson, Conan O'Brien. Okay, so he started to spin this vision for me, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. Can we get, it's Zeev Klein, right? He gets some people. I said, can we get Paul Schaefer? So it turns out he did. He got Paul Schaefer. Now you might notice they're not up here. Schaefer committed, but you know what? When duty calls, it turns out he's golfing with Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump right now. So, he couldn't make. All right, so nix the band. Band's not gonna. So opening montage. I thought we'd have me in classic poses on TV. No opening montage. So I thought, well, there's gonna be a monologue, right? So where's my team of writers? No writers. Just tell some Trump jokes. And I thought, oh, okay, but wait a minute, it's not funny. So that's not gonna work. So we're really right. So, okay, here's what I need. I need an Ed McMahon, or how many remember Ed McMahon? Yeah. Okay, you've just shown your age, people. Thank you for raising your hand. Andy Richter, can I have maybe get Peter Hirschberg up here laughing for no apparent reason? So anyway, you know what we do have? It's great. We have an IKEA desk and a coffee mug with my name on it. And that's pretty much it. So, fortunately, we do have 2 phenomenal guests to talk about impact. 2 people who are deeply involved in this and have been for many years. Ann Black and Richard Edelman. I'll introduce them briefly. Their curriculum vitae are included in your materials, so I won't go through that. But I'd like to welcome my first guest to the stage, Ann Black of Goldman Sachs Gives.
Please welcome the president of Goldman Sachs Gives, Ann Black.
That was
I feel like, are you promoting a movie or something now? Let's get straight to the chase.
I must say I am originally a Chicagoan, so this is very exciting to be here. And for a moment there, I felt this was like a potential Second City-esque show, but I am not an improv professional, so I might stay away from that.
Oh, not improv. Okay, I'll keep that
But we'll
in
work
mind.
on that.
So, Ann, this impact thing, tell us briefly about Goldman Sachs Gives, because it's not a typical foundation. It's a different sort of organization. Tell us how it works.
Sure. So Goldman Sachs Gives is a donor-advised fund. I know there's a few of us from the DAF community here. The donor-advised fund market is relatively new in the world of philanthropy versus family foundations. It's now a $80 billion marketplace, quickly growing. And for Goldman Sachs Gives, we are a fund for our firm's partners. So our 400 senior-most, wow, that is quite a mug. So our 400 senior-most people of Goldman Sachs are what I consider my clients. And they have the ability to recommend grants to the nonprofit organizations of their choosing. So in the last 5 or 6 years, we've deployed $1.25 billion to about 5,000 different nonprofit organizations globally. And the fun of it really comes with, it's very akin to family philanthropy in many ways, because I get to know our partners and their individual philanthropy interests, in many cases their spouses too. But what's particularly meaningful is when we can come together as a corporation and really leverage the spirit of our firm's partnership. Just today, in fact, we have been thinking about what we can do in light of what's going on over in the UK around terrorism. And so there we can bring together our partners collectively and do some really interesting, bigger grants together as a team and as a corporation.
Great. So what are some trends you're seeing in the impact space, whether that's giving, social, entrepreneurship? What are some things you're seeing in the past few years?
It's such a, I'm sure we all agree, it's such a fun time to be in this business. I think there's an incredible amount of room to run. If you're a young person, it's something we've all been saying the millennials are incredibly interested in. It's keeping us all on our toes, I think, at our companies. But there's a couple perspectives I would say. So if I put my hat on broadly as a Goldman Sachs person, what's really fun for our work lately is working with our firm's clients. So for instance, that might be an investment banking client based out in the Valley, and they might have a potential IPO. We're seeing much more frequently these days, since when I joined Goldman almost a decade ago, we're meeting with those prospective or current clients who are thinking about IPOs, whether it is the CEO, he or she might have a personal event if their company goes public and have the ability and the need to set up a family foundation, right. Or that corporation is looking for help on how did we think about building our CSR platform and helping them think through those same issues. And then for those of us who work as our day jobs in what we call corporate engagement, the same space, what's exciting now is working with my colleagues across all different sort of tools in our toolbox. So my day job is sort of traditional grant making work, but I might also work with our clients who are doing real estate deals, and they might be doing mixed-use housing investments, for instance. Right. So really thinking about what are all the tools that we have in our toolbox, and I know that many of us in our different corporations are thinking about that too. It was referenced earlier, Airbnb's announcement. They have excess inventory. What can they do to make sure those rooms are given to refugees, for example? So I think we're all thinking about those pieces.
And this resonates with what I'm seeing at the sort of the opposite end of the career ladder, which is students coming out of an MBA or maybe an EMBA. We were talking about this earlier when I was finishing my PhD and started teaching at Kellogg in 2000, 2001. There were very few conversations about social impact in business, and it is a dead center topic today, and that's exciting to see. You're seeing similar things. But one of the questions I get a lot from alumni, students, clients, other people I work with, you have a different version of the same question, which is, how do I find purpose? How do I feel like I want to be doing something, and I'm sure there are some people in this room that have a similar thought. I'm here to discover the things that I want to get invested in and my time, my money. What's your experience helping be the sort of giving psychiatrist for your partners and clients? What are you seeing? Right.
We see a bunch of different things, but what I think a lot of us who are in this business really love is that this is deeply personal work. I think I enjoy that my career is personally rewarding as much as it's professionally rewarding. So whether we're talking to an individual private wealth client or like I said, a corporation, first and foremost, what are the issues that resonate with you? If you're a corporation, what are the issues that resonate with your clients, with your whole supply chain? Then we back that up. As we all know, it's all about data, and facts can be very stubborn. So it's all about what are those M&E pieces that you can build into your philanthropy program to really measure and evaluate, and then tweak your program and keep measure, evaluate, tweak it to make sure you're really truly solving that social issue. Think of what do your people want to do? So we knew, for instance, in our firm with all of our bankers advising clients, what were they doing out maybe perhaps in a gleaming Mumbai office building working with companies that had financing needs? But there were, for instance, women entrepreneurs that we worked with in our 10,000 Women program in India. We also had advice that we could work with them and learn from them. And so the ability to work on programs like our 10,000 Women program at Goldman, that really leveraged our people's skill set really nicely. And then finally, when we've built our programs, we think of what are the white space issues. We've talked a lot today about the SDGs, and so where could your company perhaps tap into those or other issues that are, I think, important for the world right now, and certainly there's unfortunately no shortage of issues to help with.
All right, so you've undoubtedly encountered a lot of personal stories in your work. Tell us one, something that impressed, dismayed. I think Aaron said earlier, pure anecdotal joy of a terrible thing. Or how about a positive thing, perhaps?
Probably what would come to mind, there's quite a number, but I do think I joined Goldman Sachs to work on our 10,000 Women program originally, which is a $100 million initiative in which we train 10,000 women entrepreneurs in emerging markets. And the opportunity to really travel to a number of different countries and get to know these women entrepreneurs was extremely rewarding. And one in particular, I think of this woman from Afghanistan who lived in one of the most conservative provinces. And so for her to even be able to matriculate through our program and be in a classroom was a big thing. She wasn't originally in her culture even allowed to leave the home. And so when she finally had a little bit of proceeds, mind you, by the way, her husband had been obviously very resistant to her even being in the 10,000 Women program originally. And on top of that, she had only born daughters, so she had 3 girls, so they had no sons in this family. Well, finally, this woman, because of her arts and crafts, and she a little bit, learned some business skills and was able to build her business, she came back and she shared her proceeds with her husband. And while she desperately wanted her daughters to be able to start to go to these new girls' schools in Afghanistan, she knew she couldn't overtly ask for it. But she did sort of slyly say to her husband, I'm so sad that I haven't been able to bear you any sons, but I hope that with this money that I learned through my classes that I'll be able to support our family a little bit better. And the husband sort of thought about this, and they came the next day, and he said, I've been thinking about this, and you are right, we should force our daughters to go to school. And that woman, she now has a voice in her community. Her 3 daughters have a voice, and that is how we can sort of really change these social issues.
And they felt it in action.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Ann. That was great. And now I'd like to. I'd like you to imagine we're cutting to Toyota and a Ford commercial for a bit, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're right back. Now I'd like to introduce Richard Edelman, CEO of Edelman.
Please welcome our next guest, President and CEO of Edelman, Richard Edelman.
Great. Okay, we'll work on the timing in the future. Great.
That would be good.
So, Richard, you run one of the largest communication companies in the world. I'm proud to say headquartered right here in Chicago. We're glad you're here. And one of the things that I've always admired about your company is its commitment to trust. I have a colleague, Kent Grayson at Kellogg, who's been studying trust for years, and he has mentioned to me and others that this is a large-scale, longitudinal, highly respected study. What are you seeing in your recent iteration of the Trust Barometer?
The most scary facts for you in the audience is the collapse of trust in the media. It's the 4th wave of the tsunami. 2008 was the financial markets, then globalization, then automation, and now the media. And here's an amazing number. Only 15% of Trump voters trust the media. 4 in 5 read only that which they agree with. 2 in 3 trust a search engine over a human editor. What this leads to is a world of disinformation. And the consequence for those of you in civil society is severe. In fact, an NGO leader is only hardly more credible than a CEO. This has been a slow but persistent decline. The consequence further is by 2 to 1, people are afraid of the pace of innovation. They're afraid of the future. They're looking behind themselves instead of in front. And so, again, for those of you in civil society, pay attention. You've got to consider a world in which the number of journalists in newsrooms has declined from 400,000 to 175,000 in the last decade. What that means is real news is not getting out. And further, it means that you're going to have to consider a time when you're going to become your own media companies, that every one of you is going to have to put out your own information. Otherwise, you're not going to be heard.
Richard, what does it mean to become your own media? I mean, you're not looking for a whole bunch of Edelmans to pop up and in the room here, but what do you mean become your own media company?
Take a page from Trump in one positive sense, that's all, which is go direct and be vertical. What I mean is be subject specific in verticals. So if you're New York Magazine, you're not the horizontal anymore, you're food or theater or sports. If you're in an NGO, you're sustainability or your water or your childcare or whatever it is. But be subject specific, be quick, be agile, and also be visual. Make it about short form, shareable, and make a platform in which others can contribute content. Don't make it you talking to them, make it a conversation.
So that's some of what we should do to get started and really get in the arena. But what do you tell your best clients about how to be involved in improving trust in institutions? Where does that start and how do we make it happen? Because we're all in this together.
It's a game of inside out. We tell our clients it starts with treating your employees well. Pay them, make sure they're trained for the next generation. If it's going to be the trucking industry, retrain them because these people are going to be outmoded, unfortunately, because of autonomous vehicles. And recognize that this is not about purpose in the classic sense, which is a CSR program. Change your business model. Actually fix the problem. Don't just give money to assuage the guilt.
Right. Now, I'm going to come back to you, Richard, and I think we all agree with that. I'm going to come back to you, Richard, and ask you in a second for an example of a company, an organization that saw a problem, made a change, and did the right thing. So while you're spinning that up for us, I want to pass the baton back to Ann for a second. So Goldman Sachs is one of the most venerable institutions in the world in your field. It's had some challenges recently. What does it look like? What does it look like from Manhattan?
Yeah. Yes, trust. We have Richard on speed dial, I think, at times. But listen, I think for Goldman Sachs in the financial crisis, it was a moment of real eye-opening and real soul-searching at our company. And we had not engaged. It's actually interesting to hear Richard's comments because I think that was precisely what happened to us. We had not engaged. The dialogue was being written about us. And we realized that we hadn't done a very good job of explaining what does investment banking mean. And so we've tried to do that over the last 8 years, to some success, better than others. It's something we try, whether it's through traditional marketing channels, social media. We just finally have gotten our CEO tweeting as of last week. But
unfortunately not in the middle of the night.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Although he's using, I'm not sure the emojis, whether his 20-something kids are picking them out for him. The emojis were sort of interesting. I don't know if any of you saw Lloyd's tweets, but in any event, so it is something that we have room to improve on. We think about it all the time in our work, and it's about being a part of the dialogue. I think we've realized.
Great, Richard. An example, something that you've seen, perhaps something you're proud of, where a company made a change and it worked.
So a decade ago, 10% of Americans refused to shop at Walmart because it was a bad company, because it didn't pay its workers properly, it didn't give them health benefits. And so the first step was to actually improve pay and do the benefits. But the second step was to change the perception of Walmart as a big, lumbering, frankly, maybe unfair competitor, getting rid of small businesses, et cetera. In fact, Walmart used its size to advantage. It changed the whole idea of sustainable supply chain. And it said to its suppliers, Unilever, Procter, you want to put your products on our shelves? There will be concentrates, and they will be sustainably grown agriculture. And we're going to go beyond that. We're going to put stores into food deserts. We're going to go into the most difficult neighborhoods that are only served by, frankly, bodegas, and we're going to put in stores where people can get good-for-you food. And we're going to change. And they changed their business, and here we are today. And now Amazon is the next opposition.
Right. Well, I mean, it is funny, but Amazon is the Walmart of the 21st century, along with Alibaba. And I wouldn't count Walmart out. They've made some really significant changes. It's exciting to see that. So this question of impact, this question of trust, what is something you keep an eye on to get a sense, in addition, of course, to the Edelman Trust Barometer? What are some commentators, some news sources, some experiences you engage in each year to keep an eye on where the future is trending? Anne, you'd like to start?
Sure. For us, when we think about that, I mean, when I think of what is in our field, the most disruptive ideas or leaders, I think that's sort of a guiding principle throughout a lot of our work in our grant making. Charles Best comes to mind, who many of us know runs Donors Choose. I mean, he really upended how teachers could have a voice in getting their classrooms funded. And we also recently discovered a terrific young startup nonprofit that's using data science, Bay's Impact. They're using data science to solve social issues. And they were incubated at Y Combinator, and now they're working on some really big issues and being able to use these reams of data that now we're all privy to. And so I think there's tremendous areas of opportunity for us in this field to have impact in new ways because of tools like this, whether it's driven by technology changes or otherwise.
Great. Richard.
So in the last 2 weeks, I've gone to cities. I went to Baltimore. I saw Under Armour, and I went to Dallas yesterday, and I saw a company called Veridesk. And what I observed is that Under Armour is transforming 168 acres of former shipping port into its next headquarters, and they've put in a couple of incubators for its own supply chain, and also to teach people in Baltimore who are former steelworkers and others how to get their manufacturing skills for 3D or other. And then I just at Veridesk saw yesterday the same sort of thing. Business is the number1 opportunity for force for good. Civil society should hit business, but partner with business. Hold them accountable, but this is the powerful opportunity if it's done right. And I do think that in this moment in time when there's actually a loss of faith in the system. In our trust barometer, we've never seen this before. More than half the people said they don't believe in the system anymore. They don't think it's fair. They don't actually believe in the future. They don't believe in the leaders. The only thing they believe in is change. Interestingly, the group most believed is business. So business to me is the last retaining wall in the tsunami. And so, I know many of you are social entrepreneurs, but do partner with business. They have money, they have willingness, and they actually have CEOs in this next generation of leaders who actually want to do it and see business as a force for good in society.
And find the ones who are honestly leading at the vanguard, stand behind them, tell their stories, keep them accountable. The fourth wave of the tsunami. I remember when I was coming out of my PhD, I thought, oh, thank goodness I'm going to be a professor. So of course, I'm protected from this. I'm going to be trusted. And then, of course, Enron happened and others happened. And oh my gosh, I'm a business school professor. Maximize profit at all costs. We're all in together, looking behind ourselves, look forward and figure out how we can pick ourselves up together. You're your own media company, digital and vertical. It starts from the inside out, understanding what it is you're truly trying to accomplish, being honest to determine that this is not just a communication effort, because in an age of hyper-transparency, people will discover what is truly inside your business and inside your heart, because this is a deeply personal effort, as Ann pointed out. It requires soul-searching. In conclusion, I have 2 daughters and no sons, 6 and 7.5. I have to admit, every time I see a young person get up on stage or do anything, I start to choke up and even cry. Occasionally my daughters ask me, "What's wrong, Daddy?" and I can't explain to them. But the future is for them, and we're all in this together. Thanks, Richard and Ann.